Never met such an uncle. The girl is studying calculus. Uncle wants to take her out to play, but the girl didn't want to go. I picked up a book on linear algebra. Uncle had no choice but to force her out of the house. The little girl, named Mary, just turned 7 this year. First day of school almost made the teacher cry. The teacher sounds like a screw-up. Decided to teach him a lesson. Little girl has something. 192. Mary answered correctly again. The teacher was shocked, but to establish class authority, he made an offhand remark. I can't even express myself. Sure enough, Mary was stumped. For elementary school students, after all, this question is truly beyond the realm of truth. The teacher was relieved. But just as he was getting back to class, the teacher was stunned. Quickly take out the computer to check. I didn't think the answer was exactly right. What's even more embarrassing is that he can even figure out square roots. The teacher was completely dumbfounded. Get the principal here right away. But Mary complained on the spot. Soon my uncle came to school. The teacher told him excitedly, your child is a genius. When I was 7, I could do the radical. Uncle, after listening, calmly said learning when I was 8. This wave of Versailles is straight to the teacher. Are they all geniuses? The teacher searched the internet for Mary's last name, that his mother was a genius mathematician. But sadly, he committed suicide 6 years ago. She gave her daughter to her uncle before she died. And this uncle is not easy. He was a university professor. Now he repairs boats for a living. Although life is very hard, and she has a one-eyed orange cat, he often takes Mary to play. It's a happy little life. But even under these conditions, still can't hide Mary's gift. He taught himself advanced mathematics at the age of 7. The Sway and Tang tests at school were too easy for him. The teacher's test paper hasn't been handed out yet. Mary finished writing the topic. It's a good thing the teacher was prepared. Take out the second set of high school papers. But these questions are for Mary. There is still no difficulty. This also makes the teacher very convinced. He really is a math genius. And so it turned out. Mary's not just brilliant. Emotional intelligence is also quite high. Seeing classmates being bullied by seniors, she'll get justice. Mary couldn't look past, decided to enlighten him with knowledge. Soon my uncle was invited to school. The principal was not angry and transfer Mary to a gifted school, even high tuition fees. I'm gonna find a way to help him. Faced with such a rare opportunity, my uncle refused decisively. It's not that he doesn't want his niece to get a better education. I was worried about my sister's tragedy. It's gonna happen to him again. So he had to hope that Mary, to be a happy, normal person, but fate has its ways. There was an unexpected visitor in the house. Breaking the bottleneck of the past, he turned out to be Mary's grandmother. He used to be a math genius. He got married and left academia, so put the desire to solve the world's problems. It's all on the children. Unexpectedly, under the long pressure, gifted daughter chooses to die young. The uncle also broke off the relationship between mother and son, raising a niece on her own. 7 years. Grandma never came for a day. This surprise visit. Because he found out about the granddaughter he abandoned. He's also a math genius. And tried to take custody of him. Send Mary to a gifted school, let her get back to mom. The unfinished academic question, but my uncle wouldn't accept it because of my sister's dying wish, is to give Mary a normal life. Eventually, the mother and son split up on bad terms to fight for custody of Mary. Grandma took her uncle to court. The first trial is over. Grandma won visitation rights. He brought Mary to MIT, found a professor in the math department to test Mary's talent. The professor prepared a difficult problem, but Mary frowned when she saw the question. I didn't go to the blackboard to answer. The professor looked at Grandma scornfully. Grandma was angry, too, pulled her granddaughter off campus. But just then, a word from Mary gave her hope again. Grandma was shocked when she heard this. Get Mary back to the classroom. I saw her add a few strokes to the blackboard. The math professor was stunned. Look at the genius girl in front of you. Grandma's heart was more determined, by any means, to get custody of him. It was time for the second session. Grandma ignored Mary's feelings. His real father was invited. Let him give him custody. Fortunately, the lawyer my uncle hired wasn't a vegetarian either. A few simple questions. It proves the scumbag father. I never did my duty as a biological father. The judge ruled immediately, depriving men of their guardianship. And so the case came to an impasse again. Come home at night. Mary shut herself in the house. I cried for a long time alone. He never understood. Your own father is alive. Why won't you come and see yourself? To calm Mary's nerves, his uncle took him to the hospital. They waited in the corridor long into the night. With a cry, Uncle woke Mary from sleep. Let him witness the birth of a life. What a happy thing. Then Uncle told Mary a few simple words, but it did untie Mary's heart. Her birth was not a mistake. It's a gift from heaven. Soon the third trial began. Grandma's lawyer was even more blunt. My uncle quit his job as a professor, take Mary to a hidden place, and won't let him go to school for the gifted, clearly jealous of his sister's talent. The goal is to turn Mary into a normal person, to get back at my sister. In this way, the uncle was questioned, but he remained firm and said yes. Homecoming. This series of practical problems also let my uncle's heart was shaken. Is this really good for Mary? Then my uncle's lawyer offered a compromise. Put Mary in a good home. Let her make her own choices when she's an adult, and Mary couldn't accept leaving. My uncle cried his lungs out. Although my uncle is very reluctant, but to keep the court from giving Mary to grandma, but also for her to have a better environment. Uncle had no choice but to agree, but she never expected it. I went to see Ma again, leak out the news that Mary didn't want to see her again. My uncle is very sad. Life is also unhappy. To this day. The teacher found it by accident in the bookstore. A sign that the Cyclops cat will be euthanized. She hurried to tell her uncle. My uncle understood everything in a moment when he read the news. She stormed into the shelter in anger, saved the Cyclops cat. Then he took out a box. Got to the foster home quickly. Really, I opened the door and saw my grandmother staring at Mary as she solved the problem. She angrily took a note. He threw it right in front of his mother and beckoned Mary home. But Mary was angry and ran away. The uncle hurried after him. He held her tightly in his arms. This time she would never let go. After calming Mary down, he went back inside. Tell your mother a long-hidden secret. It turned out that my sister had already solved it. The problem of the world. Grandma asked, why didn't he publish it? My uncle finally told me the truth. Dan instructed me very clearly. She was talking about the answer. Grandma's a total fool. How could he have thought of that? It turned out that the daughter was to get revenge on herself. After Uncle and Mary leave, Grandma looked at the manuscript her daughter had left. There are clearly visible tear marks on it. There is also the joy of overcoming difficulties. Yet these joys and sorrows, he never noticed. What I didn't expect was the daughter I was proud of. I hate myself so much. The end of the story. Mary transferred to MIT. My uncle picked him up on time every day. I took her to the playground, let her learn and play. Maybe that's what education should be, not just for kids to learn and grow, but also to bring children company and happiness.